So Kat has an amazing book. It's called You Can't Joke About That.
Yes.
And I love this book
Thank you.
because it is as good as it lives up to its title. And I think it's important for this age when you're not allowed to joke about anything. You're not allowed to say anything. You're not allowed to do anything. And you had an experience that is very difficult to joke about.
Correct.
And I will just share with you guys that her experience was like tailor-made for mommies and your mom house. Like, it's everything brown. This is a brown story from top to bottom. Shit story.
Yes.
It involves a lot of things that we talk about here, and I want her to tell the story if you don't mind. And do read the book because it gets deeper into it. There are things you can't joke about, and this one still jokes about it.
Yeah, this is the only way I got through it. You guys have no idea what I'm about to say because this doesn't happen to people.
What do you think she's about to say?
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about? Diarrhea?
If it's shitting yourself, I mean, that happens to everybody.
I wish.
No.
I would have, at this time, can I tell you, I was praying to God to be able to one day shit myself again. That's exactly what I wanted. Here's what happened. It was Saturday. Everything was fine.
You were supposed to get married on that day,
I was
weren't
supposed to get married like a few weeks later.
Okay.
But then we had to cancel it because of Cuomo was like, can't have more than 10 people in a room, whatever.
Right. She had her wedding at our apartment.
Yeah, at your apartment.
Yeah.
So I have a really bad stomach pains where it was excruciating. I regret ever using the word excruciating before. It hurt so bad. I couldn't breathe. And I told Cam, my husband, but who was my fiance at the time, I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I'm a hypochondriac. He's like, just take something, sleep it off. Blah, blah. I was like, we need to go now. I go to the emergency room. I'm like, I'm dying. I know I'm dying. He's like, whatever, let me know what kind of food you want me to get home. I was right. I was dying. I had a bowel perforation. There was a hole in my colon, and they told me that I was going to need to go into surgery to get an ileostomy.
The part she didn't say, she'd had a colonoscopy because Nadav's been through a diverticular abscess and a resection, all this stuff too. So he knows a little about this. So she had a colonoscopy a couple weeks earlier. They didn't even think about that. That's of course.
I didn't even think about that because it was a few weeks before. So I'm like, I don't know what happened at this point, and I'm like, what's an ileostomy? Because I had no idea, and I'm like, it's the fancy word for shitbag. So I have an entire chapter in my book that's just called shitbag. And my Cam's still not getting it. He's like, when should she come in for the surgery? And they're like, no, right fucking now. Like my blood results were crazy because
you have peritonitis.
I was, the shit is seeping into my bloodstream.
No, into your abdominal cavity, and
everywhere.
then that infection is getting into your bloodstream.
It was it hurt so bad. Like I couldn't breathe. So
that is peritonitis.
I had to be wheeled into surgery, emergency surgery. I wake up. I didn't know. I don't know if you guys know this about shit bags. I assumed that there was some kind of waste disposal apparatus. It's not. It is just your small intestine coming out of a hole in your stomach, and waste goes into the bag.
Did you have anything like that, Nadav? Did you have to have a colon?
I didn't have a colostomy.
Okay, this is actually the small bowel, so it bypasses the entire colon.
Yeah.
So there's a small bowel coming to the surface, which is kind of interesting.
So I can't shit at all.
Can't shit at all, but the ostomy, the colon, the small bowel that's coming to the surface, has interesting abilities.
Now, wait, what Nadav just said, I'm actually curious. So does that mean that her inside of her body was outside of
That's
the body?
That's exactly what that means.
No, because
no.
Because they it's still the inside. From your mouth to your anus is a tube.
Right, but that tube is inside of me now. It wasn't before.
It runs through you, but it's actually outside of your body. It's a tube that's outside of your body, and they bring that tube to the surface, so it remains outside the body.
So I actually don't know this. Was that the end of my? That wasn't the end of my butthole. That was the end of my small intestine.
Yeah, small intestine.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So, butthole.
That's That's the medical term. So this was during COVID, so I was alone the entire time, basically.
At the hospital.
At the hospital. They would allow you for 2 hours of visitors a day, not past 6 p.m. Because I don't know, I guess COVID got worse at night. So I had nobody with me, except that, the roommates I had or the curtain mates. I had this one lady the first night I was in there. I don't know what was wrong with her, but I do know that the more she farted, then the better that was for her prognosis. Because in the night, she was singing these gospel style songs she made up herself about like giving glory to God for the farts that she was having, whatever.
Oh, seriously?
Yes.
Oh my
so
God.
I was turning up my forensic files, and then she told me to turn it down. So I was like, what the fuck? And then she was like, I didn't know you could hear me. So we talked all night, still have her number on my phone, whatever. I go home.
Do you call her now? Do you talk to her?
I haven't talked to her, but we were, we were in the barracks together,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
So
bonded by trauma.
yes.
Yeah.
And so I have this shit bag. I take a week off. I go back to work. I don't want to tell anybody because, if I tell people, how are you? Well, my small intestines hanging out of my body. I'm involuntary shitting. I also had the wrong sized one, so I was leaking all the time. The bag was exploding all the time.
So let's stop. Let's stop. Slow down. So
Yeah.
when you're getting your instructions,
Real hot girl shit.
when
Yeah. Yeah.
you're getting your instructions to go home, what are they emphasizing above all else?
Oh my gosh. So the instructions, I just said, oh my gosh. Like I wouldn't want to be vulgar, right? In this discussion. So instructions for sexual activity with a shit bag. It says bold, all caps and underline, do not attempt to penetrate stoma.
Don't the
fuck-
dog's like, yeah.
Don't
Fuck
fuck
yeah.
the small
That's
intestine hole.
great
So
advice.
The fact that it
Well,
was
Christina had fucked my stoma tour. Remember that?
sure-
and
yeah, sure
little
do.
did she know.
Then it
that's-
apparently happens. And it happens often enough that they need to underline it, bold it, cap.
Did the nurses bring it up too?
The fact that tells you everything I think that you need to know about men.
Yeah.
Because there was enough people being like, okay, I just went through this traumatic experience where my intestines out, and then my partner put his dick in it. Like, I mean, you think you'd want to be, but props to my husband.
it didn't even
He did
cross your
not
mind?
put his penis in it,
He
but
didn't.
he did put his penis in me.
Which is amazing.
He still wanted to have sex with me when I had the shit bag on. So
Which
like,
Kat couldn't believe. And I said, I thought this is a great way to compliment a woman. And I
Yeah.
said, Susan,
To fuck her stoma?
no,
no, not her stoma, but her.
want to
Oh,
continue to have sex in spite of the presence of a stoma, right?
Right.
Of a shit bag.
Believe it or not, I had felt sexier at other times in my life.
And I said, Susan, I love you so much. I'm so attracted to you. You could have 2 shit bags and I'd still fuck
Isn't
you.
that sweet?
I think that's true love.
That is.
Yeah.
I did have a belt. There's this company, and I really wish that I could remember the name of it, but it was like Ostomates, like a play on ostomy and intimates,
Yeah.
where they make like lingerie for people with shit bags. So I had like this belt thing that would hold it in place because you don't want that flopping around,
No,
when
yeah.
you're banging.
Yeah.
So I did have that to hold it in place, but still you don't like, you're not like, oh, I'm, you know how when you're potty trained as an adult, you're like, I have to poop, and then you go to the bathroom and do that. It spews out of you when it wants to.
Well, not as a spew out. I thought your mom's house would like it. It does just it sprays. It spits.
Projectiles
Yeah.
are cool.
It can spray across the room,
And you don't know when it's coming.
and it's random. It just.
It's just like a volcanic eruption. It's just like,
Yes.
oh, I think
But
something's gonna happen
usually
soon.
it's kind of a tiny stream. It's
Yes.
like a little spit.
It depends what you eat. You can eat Mike and Ike's to stop up the flow, which is like a cool trick I learned, but it
Just
can only be
Mike and
stopped up
Ike's?
for so long. But you shower with the bag on, so you have to put saran wrap on over it and then tape it so it doesn't get wet. And I had my best friend who's like a gay gymnast. He was a flower girl in my wedding, living with us at the time. He would tape it all around the small intestine, spurting shit. But when he got to my where my vagina was, he wouldn't do it. I'm like, so that gave me. There's nothing wrong with my vagina.
He's afraid of vaginas,
Right?
though.
He is
Keith is
afraid of
afraid of vaginas,
vaginas.
so.
But then sometimes you shower with it off. So then when you come out of the shower, it could start spurting. So my husband would be like putting it on. I'd be holding it. Sometimes there'd be shit spraying everywhere. And I'm like, this man still wants to marry me. This man still wants to have sex with me. But I didn't really tell people that I was going through this because, and this was the subject of my book, because my dad was like, Kat, you're like 32. What have you not been through at this point? Because there's a lot of trauma in my book. My trauma bingo card, it's up
Pretty
there.
full.
Yeah. So I was like, well, Dad, and I was on opiates at the time because they give you opiates for this. And, but tough thing you go through, you're automatically building a connection with everyone who goes through it too. But then I thought about it and I was like, what's the use if we can't talk about it? Because now these rules for speech are supposed to be put into place to, be sensitive to people who are going through things.
Yes.
But for me, it was the opposite. I didn't want to tell people because I didn't want people to be like, oh, are you okay? No. And I didn't need them to be so nervous to say something to me. I already felt weird enough. I felt like a walking science experiment.
And making fun is a great way to deal with it.
It's a great, gut felt, he texted me while I was in the hospital. He was like, "This is your Vietnam." And that made me laugh. And I had to laugh about it. I had to be able to joke about it. I made jokes that like I could do an OnlyFans for the rest of my life. I still have a pretty big scar. I can wear whatever I want. I can be like a 60-year-old woman walking around in a thong bikini, in the mall. And I can be like, no, this is for ostomy awareness. Like I'm breaking the stigma. Nobody can ever say that I'm joking. All this helped me get through this stuff.
You named the bag
Beth. I named the bag Beth because I was with, on a session with my therapist, Zoom, of course, because, pandemic. And I was like, I am anxious because every time I look at it, I get upset. I don't want to empty it. And he was like, well, you're going to be anxious because if something on your own body, you can't run away from it. So he made me touch it. He made me, and I named it Beth. And so then we joked that every sex that we had was like a threesome. With
Beth was there.
And it was the worst threesome ever. And Cam is such a trooper because, I gave the book to my mother-in-law and it's like, so now you know that your son banged me with the shit bag on. And then I talked about this on one of my live shows on stage and I'm like, and he banged me with the shit bag on. And he, of course, Cam's sitting next to my dad.
Oh.